I first started really diving into using AI in my writing when I realized I could make money off of it, and a decent bit at that. I ended up going into Upwork and Fiverr, which, if you guys aren't familiar with those platforms and you're an avid writer, I recommend checking it out. It's a pretty fun way to figure out how to make a couple extra bucks or even turn it into a full-time job. But essentially, it's part of the gig economy. You can log in on there, go find people that need something done. You do it for them, whether it's coding, writing, virtual consulting, all these different things. Mostly writing is what I see on Upwork. And you can write a few thousand words, write a book, help them work on writing the book and get paid for it. Well, very quickly, about 2 years ago, I realized I could triple the amount of work I'm able to do in such a short amount of time. So obviously, if I knew I could equate that to money, I dived pretty heavy into that. I started producing a lot of writing, getting clients, being able to produce what they needed. But I realized very quickly that the quality of the work may not be up to par to what you would want if you're really selling high-ticket items. If you wanted to sit there and make, 10 cents a word, 5 cents a word, AI is perfect. It's exactly what you need. You can bust out blog articles, you can bust out all these different things. However, I realized to make a really good quality and to charge that more, 50 cents, $1 a word, $40, $100 an hour for your time, you couldn't just tell AI, take whatever it wrote and sell it to someone. Again, you can do that, and I've made a little bit of money that way, but one, it doesn't really feel good. You don't feel like you're actually creating. You don't feel like you're doing something, or at least not how I was originally doing it. I will still sometimes take exactly what the AI says and give that to people, but it's very specific and very purposeful, and the person knows I am doing that because that's what we want to do. And I'll go into detail more on why that's important and why that's a distinction between, what I was originally doing and why I'm doing it now. This process of trying to make money and put something quality out there actually found its way into the academic realm because I realized how important it was to not only crafting and making my papers better, but also everyone's around me, and not just making us so we don't have to do it or we can cheat or we don't have to try as hard, but rather the opposite. Instead of spending that massive amount of time on various tasks or doing certain things, I was chiseling away. I was using this tool that allowed me to do things faster so I could do things greater. And again, this is a concept I'm going to hit about on all of my videos. Yes, AI can be used to cheat. It can be used to get things done faster without you having to really lift a finger. It can do a lot of things for you. And a lot of people see that as lacking value. Oh, well, that's not how it should be. I need to be the creative into it. You're thinking about these as an absolute. You believe that because something is easier now, it is now less creative. That's simply not true. The ability to do something quickly, easier, faster does not make it less creative and does not mean you cannot do challenging things based around that. What I mean by that is, if I have a keyboard and I am typing on the computer, that doesn't make my writing less challenging or less creative because I'm not using pen and paper, because I'm not using a ink and quill, right? When people had to sit there and grind their own ink, dip their own feathers, and write their own papers on paper that they probably also had to make themselves, it was challenging. That whole process was challenging and very hard, and most people could not do it. But the writing they were doing on there was completely separate from whatever tools they were using to get that writing. When a mason or a sculptor is chipping away at a piece of marble, many of them see what's already there. Many of them can already picture what that piece of work is. The actual act of sitting there and typing and making the words onto the page are less important than why, what, and how you make those words portray themselves. We're getting kind of metaphysical here, so I'm being a little careful to ride this line and stay on the academic ideal, but the point I'm trying to make is that when you're typing and using AI, it doesn't stop you from making a challenging and very well-written, critically thought paper. It does if you're lazy, but that's the case no matter what tool you're using, no matter how you're writing. If you're not willing to put the effort in to make it more, it won't be more. And that's how you need to look at using AI. Where is it saving you time? What is it doing and how is it doing it in a way that you can then expand off of it, right? If it takes you 10 hours to write a paper usually, and then you go through the process that I'm about to outline here in the next few minutes of writing a paper with AI, and it saves you 7 hours, and you write that paper as good as it would have been in 10 hours, then you now have saved yourself 7 hours that you can then spend on that very same paper in more creative, expansive ways. So a lot of people seem to be using AI as a way to save time because they want to do the same thing they were doing before faster. That's cool, and I'm glad some people are doing that. The way you need to look at integrating different AI tools, algorithms, specifically here talking about large language models in your writing, isn't to, case in point, do more contracts and Upwork faster. While that's fun and some people are doing that and it's plenty okay, and like I said, get your money, get the bag, but what the real goal should be is, how do I do one of those contracts like I did before 10 times better? Because now I'm able to do it in the same amount of time that I would have done anyway. How do I spend that time way more intensely, way more creatively? How can I sit there and mold these sentences into something that is much grander, right? It allows you to do things beyond what you could have done before. That's the idea, is the tool allows you to do more because it's not sitting there making it so that, oh, well, the bar that we had here, we can reach it and that's it. There is no maximum bar. There is no limit to the creative energy, to the power, to the expertise that you can bring to a situation. If you're looking at it that way, you're automatically limiting yourself mentally, which means you are not going to be able to put out the best that you can. That means the people around you who are using AI in this way, who are looking at it as, oh, it's saving me this time, so now I'm going to spend more time to go beyond what I would have done anyway. They're going to outperform you. They're going to be better. They're going to get that publication. They're going to get that grant. They're going to get that job. They're going to get whatever it is you want because you refuse to keep up with the tools, right? It's, again, in my previous video, I talk about devaluing work. A scribe is not devalued, but rather more people can achieve the value that many scribes give. The speciality of the scribe will be his ability to write on paper, not for his ability to write, if that makes sense. The speciality of a typist is about their ability to type, not their ability to write creatively. If we're looking purely from an academic, creative, critical thought standpoint in writing, AI is not the important part of the writing. It's the person creating the idea, the tools, the end product, and what they did to get there and how they got there. That's how you need to look at it. AI is not going to replace people. People using AI are going to replace people. Think about that for a second. Really, really think about that. It's just like how people using computers replaced people using notebooks. Notebooks still exist. People still have value and use for notebooks. But to be able to do what someone can do with a computer is way beyond what you can do with a notebook. So now we were able to do different things that were not feasibly possible. Most of the things in your everyday life right now are well beyond what someone 20 years could do, 10 years ago could do. You go back 100 years and you are a super-powered human being just by having a simple cell phone in your pocket. And to me, that is something we take for granted far too often. Right now, AI is this next tool, this next technology. I'm not saying it's going to solve all our problems. I'm not saying that we're going to live in a utopia now. I am saying that it is so capable and such a useful tool that it will allow us to expand our horizons and raise the bars. That's everything I'm talking about with education, with writing, with businesses. We are setting up a new platform at which to sit on and reach higher for the greater fruit on the tree. We are able to reach further beyond our limits and see what those limits were before are now the baseline. The limits of what stopped us from doing certain things are now the fundamentals at which we raise ourselves up on. If you can think about that and change your mentality to look at it like that, not only will your writing become exponentially better, but everything you do in your life will become exponentially better. This concept isn't just about using AI. This is about understanding how everything in your life works around this idea of raising the bar and expanding your opportunities and potential. If you look at it like this concept of, oh, well, I'm saving time so I can do more of that same level of quality, you're doing it wrong. It should be, I'm saving time so I can spend more time to do something greater. Whatever that greater is the hard part. That's actually the very hardest part about all of this is now that you're able to get to the level of quality you were doing all your hard work to do before, now you have to figure out how to make it harder. How do you make your writing more critically thought? How do you spend more time on it? Now, I've talked a lot about how this writing can work and why you should do it, and this mindset shift on looking at how you're using AI in your writing. But let's actually apply it. Let's go into a process. Now, I'm actually going to take you through a very short process of how I use it to do a contract for someone. I'm going to give you a quick outline. I'll make much longer videos in the future if you guys show interest in wanting a really in-depth breakdown. And of course, I'm constantly teaching people in my online courses and one-on-one sessions on how to use it even more in-depthly to their specific skill set or area and genre of industry. If you guys really want to see some more on that, I can do these broader videos to really share the concept. Again, it takes time. It's taken me years to really understand the nuances. The hard part isn't using the AI tool or finding it and figuring out that you can use it. How do you use it in a way that actually expands and puts you at the level that you want to be at, which is whatever you choose it to be? To start off with, let's go through a standard Upwork contract. Obviously, you log into Upwork, you look for clients or jobs, or maybe someone reached out to you with an invitation, but let's assume no one reached out to you. Let's say someone wants a blog article. Let me take you through a real-world example that I've done. So I logged into Upwork. I saw someone was looking for a ghostwriter for a blog, specifically a tech blog. And I love writing for tech blogs because, one, I have a lot of knowledge in the area, and two, I always end up learning something, and that's really the best part about doing freelance writing is that you can sit there and essentially dive into what interests you, right? Whether it's academic writing, I've done writing for people who need more academic research papers done, or I've done writing for all these different tech blogs, and sometimes I'll dive into, metaphysical thought and spirituality, and it allows you to research at the same time you're doing your job. So you get to do what you want to learn and look at while also still getting paid for it. And the best part is it's your hours, right? You can work another job. You can be a full-time student. I work a job. I'm a full-time student, and I also do Upwork. It's a really great thing because you can fit it in there, believe it or not. It doesn't take up as much time as people realize. Now, if you want to make a full income off of it, you're going to have to dive a lot more time into it. But realistically, you don't have to do that. I mean, think about it. A couple extra bucks, $30 here or there, 50 cents a word for a 1,000-word article, you're making a pretty decent chunk of change for not too much work if you're using these AI tools right. So I go in there and I see that this individual, Rachel, Renaissance Rachel is her blog, wants some tech articles on AI. So I copy her entire list of requirements. Before I do anything, I'm reading through them all, put them in a Word document, figure it out, right? Okay, this is what she wants. This is what she's looking for. From there, before I even go to ChatGPT or anything like that, right above where I copied it in the document, and again, I'm going word for word on this is exactly how I do it, I will type out what prompt I'm going to use. For this one specifically, I would go, hello, my friend. I always address my AI models in a friendly tone. I find it actually usually does help with quality. I would simply say, hello, my friend, can you go ahead and write up a cover letter and proposal for this individual that highlights all the major points and answers the questions of what they need? Right? Something simple like that. You are telling it what you want it to make, what you have in your head. That sculptor reference I mentioned earlier. When you're looking at a piece of paper, you already know what that paper should look like in your head. So literally just explain that to it. I sit there and say, I really want this cover letter to explain who I am, what I am, and how I can offer them something, right? That's what you're telling yourself when you're about to write the cover letter. Then from there, I simply just type a list of things that are responses to her questions about me. Not a whole write-up, not everything, but okay, well, she wanted this type of writer that has this type of experience that does these things, and I give her examples of my experience, my time, what I've done, how I could help her, what I know, and all of those things. And it's very simple, just a short list of the things I want, as if I'm talking to you right now and just giving you a quick spiel. And then I say, take all of what I just said and fill it into this prompt. From there, I copy that whole thing, including her requirements, including my ideas, paste it into ChatGPT, or you can do Bard or Bing or Google's Gemini is pretty interesting if you have access to that. So I'll sit there and it'll output me something. Now, usually it's pretty spot on right off the bat. This allows me to break past that writer's block, that even if it's a short writer's block, because sometimes I'll be sitting there trying to craft up a cover letter and it'll be grinding and it won't sound perfect at first, but I know what I want it to sound like and I just can't. It's struggling, and eventually I get there, and then I rewrite it, and then I rewrite it, and then it's finally there. This skips those steps to the very end where I'm sitting there and the most amount of critical thought is put in, which is the actual process of making it me, the tone, the idea, the nuances of the grammar. It outputs the crap that I didn't like so that I can turn it into something polished and beautiful much faster, much easier, and a much more expressive way. Now, mind you, we haven't even gotten to the actual writing part. We haven't even gotten the contract. Just applying and giving proposals to people or using it in a very simple way will teach you massive skills on how to use it in the future. Just the process of trying to get the contracts, the money, will make you a better writer, just because you're seeing these innate aspects of the AI. Now, it sounds like a lot, but realistically, it took me maybe 2-3 minutes to write all that up, post it in there, and have a full cover letter. I'll go through, I'll edit it, I'll make my own tones, I'll swap out a sentence here or there. Again, I'll chisel away at that block of marble, that writing block, until it looks like what I saw, what I could see underneath everything. And that's where the really big part of critical thinking and skill and challenge comes from. So, send her the cover letter out. She then obviously says, hey, I'd love to work with you. This would be amazing. Here's my outline. Take her outline. I read through it. I write a little bit into it, right? As I go through, I'll write quick sentences, notes that I have in my head, how I want it, what sources I want to do. This is the process of research that you would normally do for any paper. You can use AI to help you with this. Hey, I'm looking for this concept, this idea, sitting there and working with it. But the reason I'm writing it in these little sections is I'll keep in mind I'm writing for the AI. I'm writing for what I want in my head. Imagine I was talking to myself and telling myself to write that paper and how I wanted it written. That's what I'm writing down. So at every part of the outline that she would give me, I would say, well, I want this, that, and the other. I want to be able to talk about this concept. I want to bring up how Dolly is using this. And I would go through and use my own personal experience, my own research that I've already done. That's where you're putting that extra time in and explaining it to the paper, explaining it to you. And then I copy that whole thing, throw it in there, and I say, hey, you're going to help me write an article. It's going to be like this, that, and the other, which I go through prompt engineering and what that is in much greater depth in another video that should be coming out most likely a week after I post this video. So you'll have to stay patient for that. I'm trying to get as many of these videos recorded as I can, but it takes me some time, believe it or not. It's a lot of editing. And AI does help with that, but it still takes a lot of time. And to do the quality I want, the time saved is irrelevant because, like I said, I'm still filling it with, making something better. Anyway, I would sit there. It would output me of everything I need. The 2,000 words, the tone, it follows the exact outline. And then from there, I'm putting my own concepts in, my tone. Now, mind you, this individual knew I was using AI. They were completely fine with it. They just wanted to make sure it sounded good and hit their points. Because that's the thing. It doesn't matter. Once you realize it doesn't matter if you're using AI because you want it a certain way. And if you don't have that, then you're not getting it. But if you get it, then perfect. That's what you want. It becomes very irrelevant quickly that I just want this paper, I want it written, especially with ghostwriting. So I'd go through and we do the normal back and forth editing. Oh, well, I want you to change this. I highlighted this. This is what I'm hoping for my blog. I'd love to have these links, these SEO, all that good jazz. And then eventually, boom, we're done. She pays me and it was great. She loved it. So we did it again and again. I was able to use AI to make it a little easier on me and speed up the process in some ways. And I was still learning on how to, that concept of, raising the bar. I was kind of sitting in this middle ground of, I was giving the same quality work that I usually could, which is, I would like to say, very good, except I was doing it faster and was able to focus on other things like going to school full time, which being able to freelance and go to school full time and work another job was very useful. So instead of pulling my hair out and not being able to sleep at all, using AI allowed me to actually get some rest and do it quickly and efficiently. Then from there, I just copy and repeat, go to someone else, cover letter, write about it, process, move back and forth. Again, the actual process of really diving out the paper and making it something grander than even what you could have done before is where the real value in AI comes from. I went from writing maybe 2 cover letters or sending out a proposal every 3 to 4 hours I could get a decent one out to almost doing 10 an hour. Not only was I sending more out, I started getting more contracts. It was an exponential increase in both sides. Well, maybe not exponential, that's over exaggerating, but the quality of the paper, the time I spent in that I would have spent writing 1, I was able to write 10, but also in that same amount of time to write 10, I was able to make the quality of each of those much better, which means I got more candidates. This is later on. Before I was just sending them out and like, how many can I send? But then I realized, okay, well, if I'm doing 10 cover letters in 10 hours, right? Let's say that was before AI. Well, I'm still going to do 10 cover letters in 10 hours. But now each cover letter or each proposal, each contract is way, 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 way better. So now instead of getting 2 or 3 responses, I'm getting 9, 10, 15, right? That's that shift where I went from how many contracts can I send out to how good can I make one of these contracts in the same amount of time it took me to write it before, right? That's where we're shifting perspective. It's not about doing more with less. It's about doing more and then more. And that sounds kind of funny and absurd and doesn't really hit the point I'm making exactly, but it's the best way I seem to be able to explain it is you're doing the same amount of work, but you're getting more from it. You're doing different work. You're doing different tools. You're using different concepts to get a better output. It's a new way to move through writing, to move through it. The best part about doing contracts for other people is they generally already have something they want written. Not all the time. Sometimes they just have a concept, but most of the time they give you a huge outline. You can copy that outline and throw it straight into ChatGPT and it'll output you pretty much what you need immediately. Granted, you're always going to want to go through and edit, which I'll explain here in a second, but that's essentially all I was doing for a while is just throwing it in there, editing some things, sending it to the person. And, maybe in school or when you're writing a paper, that's not a good idea. It's a very different process because the act of writing the process of it in school, you're not looking just for the end goal, you're looking for the process of getting there, which you still can absolutely use AI for, but it's a little bit different because here they want a product and I want money. And so as long as they get the quality of product that they want, or at least that they think they want, which that's an important distinction, then who cares how I did it, right? You could sit there and say, oh, well, there's other blog writers are writing it intensively over hours. And I'm like, yeah, but that person just wants an article. They don't care how long it took you to write it. They don't care how it was written. They care that they have the article that was written the way they wanted it, that was followed the outline that they gave, and they want to give you money so they can get it to them as fast as possible. This is a completely different realm from academic writing, but it is what they wanted. And so that's what I was doing for a while. But again, we strive for creativity, for understanding, for that aspect of more. And that's what I was striving for. And also, I realized just because that's what I gave them what they wanted, didn't mean I was doing enough. I realized very quickly that if I was able to sit there and expand on it and to dive deeper into it, I could do a lot more. Now, the actual process of really expanding on these papers, really creating something new with them, I'm actually going to go over in another entire video on its own. I wanted to kind of show you the quick taste of what I did in freelancing and a quick taste of how you could apply that to any writing. but the actual in-depth process of it is, I think, something that's going to take a lot more time. And I've already been speaking for a while in this video. So as always, friends, have a good day.